for everything. And the first thing I'd like to do before I introduce our panel is to go over some community touchstones that we incorporate into our programs here at Village Engage. There are a few copies on the table, except for this table because I stole yours. But I'm just going to read those really quickly and maybe think about these touchstones. Anytime you're entering a conversation where there's going to be some sensitive and important information shared, and when you're going to have a chance to share too, these are just great guidelines. These are the ones that we work through here at Village Engage, and we're inviting you to do the same. Number one is give and receive welcome. People learn best in hospitable spaces. Number two, be as fully present as possible. Number three, what is offered in our community is by invitation, not demand. Nobody has to speak or say anything. Nobody has to say silent either. Okay? Speak your truth in ways that respect other people's truth. And also remember, sometimes showing up, speaking, listening with an open heart is a brave act. It's an act of courage. So this is a brave space as well. And from the Bible, notice the log in your own eye, the plank in your own eye, and let other people worry about whatever's in their eye, okay? And know that it's possible to leave a meeting of our community with whatever it was you needed when you arrived, and that the seeds planted here can keep growing in the days ahead. Okay. All right. Well, let me go ahead and introduce our facilitators and speakers. Then we're going to do our first activity of the afternoon, okay? But let me go ahead and make sure you know who these fine folks are. I've already introduced myself, and you can see the bios on the table. But first, I want to introduce Brian Hersey, who is going to be our host this afternoon. Brian worked for 4 decades in the pension industry, consulting with domestic and multinational corporate and public pension clients, investment government, retired, and has moved to Landrum. He now spends his time engaged in charitable volunteer work. Boy, does he. He is on the boards of Prisma Health, State Foundation, Homes of Hope, and Friends of Children of Heat. And let's see, Miracle Hill Advisory Committee, St. Anthony Padua Elementary School Fund, and just an all-around great advocate for folks experiencing homelessness. So thank you, Brian, for being here with us and being part of this. And let's see, let me start with the angel to my left. That's my good friend, Davita Bryant, who works at United Ministries and has for at least 3 decades, more than 3 decades now. She's the Associate Director of Financial Assistance and has devoted 25 years to United. That was 30 to 31. Beginning her journey as an intern. Wow, I love that. And she was recommended to lead the Emergency Assistance Program in 2005, and she quickly discovered the power of personal connection and the importance of listening deeply to those seeking support. And you will see that's exactly why I asked her to be a part of the HoSEA program. Okay. Dawn Dowden over there on the far left, your far right, is the Chief Operating Officer of Homes of Hope, a wonderful nonprofit partner in the area, serving South Carolina, and they have staff of 23, and they manage a budget of around $10 million. And what they do with that $10 million is fantastic. Property management of 431 affordable homes, construction-based residential workforce development, and a program that has opened doors for 337 graduates. And you can see some of the other boards that she serves on as well. And Brian Newton at Miracle Hill Greenville Rescue Mission, let's see, steering committee and lived experience council member for the new upstart organization that is doing some great things to help end homelessness, Greenville Together. And I love that phrase here, certified peer support specialist. Brian's been in Greenville for 8 years. Okay. Been on staff at the rescue mission for 2.5. He himself has experienced homelessness and addiction, and he now uses that experience to help others going through the same thing. Fantastic. All right. I'm sorry.
We don't think the mic's on.
Oh, pretty sure.
Yeah, maybe it needs to just be turned up a little bit, maybe. It sounded like it was on.
Maybe I'm not holding it close enough.
So we could turn it up a little bit.
Siri, turn the mic up.
There's a volume.
All right, our first activity, we're gonna have 4 sessions. 2 of those sessions are gonna involve kind of a Q&A here with the panel, and 2 are gonna be more question from people in this room or people online. Welcome people on the Zoom. But our first activity is gonna feel like you're at church because it's gonna involve you staying where you are or moving to introduce yourself to someone that you have not met before and offering one simple thing. What is getting in the way of you advocating or becoming involved in the issue of homelessness? And it can vary from, well, I'm waiting on this $10 million grant that I've applied for, to, well, I'm just now learning about it and look forward to learning more. So just take about 4 or 5 minutes, say hello to someone, and offer something about your journey addressing homelessness. Okay?
I'm just saying, what is he working with? You're all involved.
Yeah, good question.
Yeah, likewise.
Participating in that, and
Yes.
now that we've got that over with, we can move on with the program. And I hope some good connections happened just now, okay? Hope some good connections happened. Well, I've already introduced Brian, someone who's integral in the work with Homes of Hope and with Greenville Rescue Mission and here at Village Engage. Thank you, Brian, for the work you do, and thanks for facilitating our conversation today.
Thanks, Matt. I really love the work that Village Engage does, so it's a privilege to be involved. Not every month, but many months on different topics, and this is one that I have a particular passion for, which is addressing our housing needs. And so, first of all, I'd like to draw your attention to, Alicia answered this out, down at the bottom. It's a good question about how I can be even more engaged. I think this group tends to be very engaged and action oriented. I'm a very action oriented person, as Matt and Alicia know. And I wanted to organize this, help organize this panel around the things that are being done. And for the audience here to think about, well, how might I use the skills God has given me to be part of those solutions. So it was interesting. I think of homelessness, and homelessness and poverty are interconnected with housing needs. Housing is such an important fundamental building block to success. And as I thought about constructing this panel, we run a continuum here. One, starting with temporary relief, crisis intervention that Brian's organization, Miracle Hill Ministries, is very involved with. Dawn's organization, Homes of Hope, is really the next step of an economic mobility and empowerment. And through her work, as I think of Davida at United Ministries and Matt's program on HoSEA, we're really addressing the kind of when you hit a pothole and there's a crisis intervention situation reintroduced into a potentially more stable situation, but vulnerability occurs very quickly. And so what I'd like to do is to kind of talk through that continuum. Let our speakers, our subject experts that we have here now, talk about what they see in the current environment here in Greenville, how they're providing solutions through these various stages. And it was interesting, I got an email from Homes of Hope today that they just graduated the 433rd and 434th graduate of the Workforce Development Program. It's wonderful to see these guys develop skills, move out of situations where they don't have control of their lives, go through a program of training and skill development in the housing industry, and then move on to successful careers. And there are some phenomenal successful careers in this industry. So, Brian, would you kick us off with talking briefly about Miracle Hill, the mission, the great work that's done there, but also kind of what the environment is right now that you're encountering. We can carry that discussion through all four of our speakers here, so.
Everybody hear me? Well, I want to start off by telling a little bit about my story. I experienced homelessness about 4 years ago. I was deep in active addiction. And I was in deep and active addiction about 4 years ago, and I found Miracle Hill. I was able to get into the mission, go through the Overcomers program, graduate that program, become an intern because I knew I wasn't ready to go back out there. And then from the internship, become staff. So I have a lot of lived experience when I can relate to people who are coming in broken, experiencing homelessness in the deepest, darkest pit of addiction. And when they come into the mission, I'm able to relate to them and show them that it is possible. You can get better and hope is there. What we're seeing right now is an influx of unsheltered homelessness. Everyone knows there's affordable housing. It's kind of a strange thing, but a lot of people through either addiction or it's a series of events beyond their control have made them experience homelessness. We are one or two events away ourselves from experiencing homelessness. We saw that in Helene. You know, when we have it, a lot of people were displaced from that. So what Miracle Hill is offering is when people come in, they can sign in, get them into the program, get them counseling, get them stability, and then move them on to employment with stable housing. And I can safely say that this year we've housed 40 plus individuals through our program into stable housing. So it's really the first part of the front lines from anywhere from the cold weather shelter that we offer when temperatures get 40 degrees and below. We're able to open up to unsheltered homeless. That is the front lines of where we can actually share the love of Christ and introduce them to Miracle Hill and what our mission does and what our ministry does for people. Once they get in there, then they can go that route.
Y'all, I know a lot of people in the room and some I don't know. So one of the things that's not included in my bio, it's actually one of the things that I'm probably the most proud of. And it's not proud of my own self in this. It's just the fact that I've had this great opportunity to have a lived experience of walking through homelessness. My kids and I walked through homelessness 18 years ago almost. And at the time, my son, I have a 1-year-old, a 4-year-old, and an 8-year-old. And we were part of the GAIN program, which is now housed in United Ministries. And we lived in 11, 12 different churches throughout Greenville County. We were transitional housing, and then moved into permanent housing. And then I've been a homeowner for about the last 10 years. I mean, technically don't own my home because, you know, the bank really owns it. But I'm in the process of that. And so that does speak so much to the heart behind why I do this work. I've walked the journey. And when I think about, you know, specifically, you know, some of the folks sitting on this panel, you know, we are in deep relationship with Miracle Hill. Those in the room that have heard us say this, we're actually married, if you like, to United Ministries. No offense to Miracle Hill. We're just in such great partnership, and there's just been, again, it is a continuum. And so when I think about my own experience, I think the benefits of transitional housing, I think about the guys, often the guys that are in our program, the graduates that Brian spoke of, a lot of them do come from Miracle Hill. So they come from the Overcomers program. They move into our program and they get a year-long training that is specifically electrician-based, construction-based primarily, but a lot of leaning towards electrician-based. We just got approved to be an Apprenticeship Carolina program, which gives them an additional level of credentials, which again really does set up that opportunity for economic mobility and soft skills and all of those things for that long term. Helps overcome the barriers that, again, whether it's choice, not choice, there's so many things that can lead to homelessness, and there's so many barriers to exit homelessness. And so, again, partners in the room, support, advocacy in the room. If it weren't for organizations like United Ministries and the food pantries and all of the things that I had to experience. SNAP, hot topic right now. All of the things that I had as support to move us through the continuum ourselves as a family. My kids would not be where they are right now, Clemson grad. You know, I got a son that's working in the electrician field. And so what we're seeing right now is, again, the need's greater than it ever has been before, because we also build and develop affordable housing, rental properties, as well as home ownership. Needs greater than it's ever been before. It's more expensive than it's ever been before. And it's more challenging. The good news that we're seeing, especially for the guys in our program, is the need for their work and their skill set is more needed than it ever has been before. There's a shortage in the construction industry. There's a need for skilled workforce. And when they go through a training program like ours, they know how to show up on time. They know how to relate to folks. They know how to not just get the job done, but get it done in a really, well done way. The great part about our program, as far as that continuum goes, is a lot of the guys that graduate our program can move into one of our affordable rental properties. We actually have some that are roommates in our affordable rentals, so it takes away that burden of affordable housing afterwards. So it's a little bit about us.
We could do an entire Fourth Friday conversation just on the work that this person to my left does. And we may do that, but I want Davida to talk about her work at United Ministries and how that has kind of been a really good fit for her to be one of the case managers that does the vetting for the HoSEA program.
So as Matt stated, I have been at United Ministries for 30 years and I oversee our crisis department. So I have seen a lot and got a call from Matt to see if I would join the HoSEA team and doing his intake, helping people with rent assistance to prevent homelessness. Because we all know that there are no pros in being homeless, and everything we can look and we can always say, what's the pro, what's the con? But we cannot do that with homeless. And so it's been a great journey with that, and it's very important. The work that is being done is very important, and we have been able to allow people to remain stable. And we know that it's not just about having a roof over your head, but it's so much more than that. When you're homeless, then things begin to spiral and snowball, and it's hard. It's hard to pick yourself.
Thanks, Davida. And I could spend my entire 3 or 4 minutes here saying thank you to the people who make the HoSEA program happen. So I do want to do that real quick. So if you're one of the HoSEA team volunteers or a pastor at a church that represents your congregation's work in the HoSEA program, please just raise your hand so we can give you a round of applause. I'm going to explain what the HoSEA team does. I've already heaped a lot of praise on Davida. Now I need to say thank you to Lizzie back there. United Ministries has been such a key partner in helping this idea of churches pulling money together. She lets us keep our funds at United Ministries, and they've had to set some boundaries for us, which has been really good. We've had some learning curves there, but Lizzie, thank you for letting us do this. And I know you're a big fan of it, but I mean, this was a big thing that you and Davida have done to let us kind of use you as a ladder to get this going and to keep it going. Okay, But let me tell you how the HoSEA program works, because I feel like it's one of those things that you may have heard of a couple of times and you're not sure exactly what it is. It's kind of fuzzy and people say, no, the HoSEA program does this, or it's that, or it's Matt's program, which is not. I have sent a gazillion emails in the name of the HoSEA program. It is not my program. It is a shared ministry. And where we fit in on this continuum, like Brian, is like Davida said, we're trying to help people stay housed, regain some stability on their own so that they don't need Brian and Dawn and Homes of Hope and Rescue Mission, so that's what we're doing. We're trying to identify families that have experienced a financial hardship and are facing eviction and are normally able to keep up their payments on their own. And what we do is say, oh, well, let us take October for you and you pick up after that, okay? The hard part is getting all those pieces together to make sure that's what's happening. Because we don't want to help someone with a month's rent and then they get evicted the next month. That's not a good steward of the money that we've been given to work on. So real quick, let me tell you how this works. Our 4 congregations that kind of started this a year and a half ago with conversations about, hey, are you noticing a lot more requests for rental assistance? Oh, you have? We have to. I wonder if there's something we could do. And so Pastor Andrea and Kevin Merton over at Christ Church and Jackie Putnam at Fort Perez, we would do these emails and we're like, let's all pitch in $400 for this family. They really need to stay housed. First Baptist will write the check for $1,600. Y'all send me a check for $400 or what. We did that for a few months. And finally, we said, let's formalize this. Let's just pull all our money for the money that we have available for this. We'll find a trusted nonprofit to maybe hold it for us, enter Lizzie and United Ministries, and we set up a process where families could kind of qualify for a full month's rent instead of $400. And also instead of us having to send a bunch of emails to coordinate it. So we streamlined the process. So now, if we hear of a family that is struggling and facing eviction, we'll do kind of a quick intake form for them to let us know what's going on. Then we send an intake form to their property manager to make sure the stories line up and the numbers line up. And if it looks like they're within $1,500 or $1,600 behind, they've got income, whether it's Social Security, disability, income, whatever for their household, they can normally keep the payments up. We will personally set up an appointment for them with Davida at United Ministries or with Trey Meredith at Triune Mercy Center. Those are our 2 case managers, and we make the appointment for them. We don't say call Davida or call Triune. We make the appointment for them, make sure they know what to expect. They bring their lease, they bring financial hardships if they have it, like somebody might have had a medical bill or a car payment. They need to bring their sources of income as well. Davida and Trey, they'll make sure all the boxes are checked. And then they send us kind of a recommendation. Yes, we think this is a good use of HoSEA funds. And then we'll get the check sent straight to the property manager. And when it works smoothly, we can get that done in less than a week. It's really fantastic. Sometimes it drags out and we can't put all the pieces together. And we're still working on that. And in our second part of the panel, I'm going to read 2 emails. One was glowing praise and one was constructive feedback. That'll be part of our how we're learning through this process. But we started this last October and we said, let's do a pilot phase and see what happens. And I'm going to tell you, over 50 avoided evictions later. I mean, year 2 is going to be about follow-up and making sure that stability is a part of their journey after they receive money. But all we can say right now is at those moments in time for that family of which the eviction was avoided. Because of the generosity of the donors of our churches that have put money in, and the volunteers who answer emails and help shepherd the client or the family from an email to sitting across the table from Davita or Trey. That's really where the volunteers come in. So there'll be plenty of time for how the HoSEA program works. There's some flyers, front and back, that has lots of good information. And go ahead and think of your question. And at the end, I want to hear some suggestions from you. I really do. Okay, thank you.
Okay, I think we got one more question in this block of time, and that is, I want to ask the panelists, what are the sources of problems in Greenville that are impeding achievement of your mission? In other words, maybe you can think of one or two, we could kind of create a checklist of here that the powers that be in Greenville might be willing to address a little bit more constructively. So maybe Brian, you kick that off, or Dawn, we'll work like that.
No pressure on that question. Of course, it's affordable housing. The lack of affordable housing is the main thing. More shelter beds, freeing up the pipeline to shelter from entering the shelter to out transitioning to stable housing. That's mainly what we see. That's what I'm saying on that. Sure.
So we are, in addition to our MES program, we are an affordable housing developer. I've been doing this work for 18 years almost, and it is harder than ever to develop affordable housing. It's harder to fund it. It's harder to get it through government regulations. It's more expensive, construction costs, all the things, and it's needed more than ever. So we're in this really perfect storm. That's not so perfect. And I just want to say this, and we do this with our partnership with United Ministries and other agencies, not just here in Greenville, but in Anderson as well. We manage 443 properties that are affordable throughout the state. 220 of those are in Greenville County. And of those, I can't remember the new number, several of those units are what we call supportive housing units or transitional housing units. And some of the other powers that be don't like calling them transitional, so supportive works. And I have to say, in my own personal journey, that transitional housing moment from shelter, which at that time was in the churches, to a permanent rental, that time of transitional housing was imperative. I cannot imagine my journey without having that time of transition to be able to fix some of the things, overcome some of the barriers, take some deep breaths, to be able to have somewhat of a normal stability with my kids without thinking about a high amount of rent that I have to pay. And so for me, again, I am a huge advocate for that transitional space. And when I think about programs that are in our area, some even domestic violence, shelters do, it's a really short period of time. It's like 90 days. And I'm like, I don't even know how you I was dealing with trauma. There's just a lot of things going on. And so again, having supportive housing, having transitional housing that has the support systems in play, key support systems are in play that help families, help individuals make that next step to long-term permanent housing, I think to me is key for what we need in our area. And it helps with the pipelines and all the things, shelter beds and all those other things.
And I agree exactly with Ryan and Don. The clients that we are seeing now, they are paying more than 30% of their income. And not only that, mostly they are single mothers, and many of them are trying to work more than one job. So I would say, parents with that.
Go ahead.
Yeah, and then one of several other pieces that probably also need some attention, but in addition to all of that, from the rental side, the filing eviction is just too easy in South Carolina. And I know that landlords and property managers need to do that as part of the process. It's just a little too easy, and tenants don't automatically have representation. They don't know what their options are when the eviction happens, so their first thought is they've got to reach out to a resource. So that's what I would like to see changed, and I see some people in this room who are working on addressing that from Greenville Affordable Housing Coalition and others, so thank you for your work on that as well.
Great. Thanks, because those are wonderful points, all of them. I'd like to just add one thing, maybe a little bit pie in the sky. I would like to see this community explore, investigate whether there are ways that we can encourage co-living solutions. There are lots of people who are on fixed budgets who could use additional income to be generated from a co-living arrangement in their homes. I live in 3,200 square feet. I only use about 800 of it. I think there are many, many situations where that could help both the owners of property and those in need of rental space. There are organizations that are flourishing in sponsoring co-living platforms, and I'd like to see that investigated in this community. And if it is a right arrow to put in our quiver, we should do it. So that's my contribution to this. I think we're into Unit B, which is Q&A from the audience. There's Elise there. She may have people online who are submitting anything. Nothing? Go with
Yes.
audience question for our panelists. Please, in the back.
I'm wondering about the recidivism rate. So you help these families, and Matt and I have talked about this. And what are you seeing in terms of what's happening the next month and the month after? Do you have an opportunity to follow up and see what's how did your money get spent?
I knew there was gonna be a troublemaker. Thank you, Bernadine. That's a good question. And we have not had a lot of people coming back to the HoSEA program asking for, in 11 and 13 months, maybe a couple. And right now, we're only helping one time. But we have not had a lot of people coming back and asking for more support. But this upcoming year 2, we're going to be doing some intentional follow-up to see where they are, how they're doing, was stability achieved, and we're really excited to hear how that has gone, so that we can know what's going on with people that receive assistance from HoSEA program, but also for us to adjust our process to kind of make sure that that's part of the outcome that we're looking for. So we do not have a lot of information or data right now, but we're looking at ways to get that. But to answer your question, we're not getting repeat requests like we do at First Baptist with our local relief program. We get a lot of repeats, but the HoSEA program we have not so far. Yes.
So just a question, something that I've noticed is that while we talk a lot about rent and rental assistance, I've also, there's also this story out there about this great transition of wealth as baby boomers pass away and pass on their wealth. But what I've found is the other side of that. So when we have multi-generational people living in a home that maybe has been paid off for decades by grandpa, and grandpa passes away, and now the property value gets reassessed. They may not know how to navigate, changing the deed over. And the property value that was benefiting from grandpa's, elderly, status and was a few $100s has now become almost a couple of $1,000s, and nobody was expecting that. So just wondering if any of your groups are addressing, helping that transition of kind of the only asset that family has, which is that paid for home, and keeping the next generation in that home and teaching those skills and helping them navigate that.
I know there are people in here, or maybe on the panel, but that is not in the HoSEA program scope, so I'm gonna pass along Mike.
So we don't do that. We don't do that. And we've seen, I've been doing this for 18 years, so we've seen what we'd like to not joke about, but especially in the developer world, where there's, in those situations, a lot of times what will end up happening is it helps perpetuate gentrification. Because people don't know, they have somebody show up with more money than they've ever seen before, and they're trying to get out. So there are organizations that do that. To the degree, I don't know. There's also really great support programs that provide repairs and those types of things. I think when I think about it and look around this room, and I know I can speak freely in this room, so I'm going to. I think, there was paying attention to how we're showing up in those spaces is a personal challenge for me. Because again, I want to build my own wealth. And so I could look at a property like that and go, hey, in the middle of this neighborhood that is challenging, and we're seeing this all over Greenville, I could take advantage of that in trying to build my own wealth. And many do, and we've seen it happen. And so I think those in this room means just a challenge to kind of sit with that in your own, it's not just advocacy, it's your own personal decisions that can potentially impact that type of challenging situation and then lead to gentrification, homelessness, and some of those things as well. So again, there are organizations that do it. Is it done enough? No. Habitat does repairs, but again, that's specific, like in-home education piece. There's organizations like the Center for Years Properties that will do, again, some of the legal work behind that. There are community organizations. I know Sterling has some things within their own community. Somebody has an answer over here.
Well, it's not an answer, but I would just say, reach out to the Human Relations Commission at the county. They are doing some work with, legacy work to help people with that transition. And they also have classes on homeownership and things like that can help as well. So I think they would be a good resource to touch bases with.
Greenville County Human Relations. Yes,
We just have another question whenever you're ready.
online?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
All right, so Talina Bolding, some of you may know, she asks about housing solutions for individuals with mental health conditions. She's looking for organizations that may have more than one bedroom. She has some clients, I think, who they only have one bedroom.
Housing solutions for those experiencing mental health. Okay.
Yes.
Department of Mental Health, we're partners with them. And again, it provides some of the things we talked about earlier, good support services. Again, do they have capacity? Anybody that knows mental health spaces, there's not enough capacity for that, but it is a really good solution. And again, we as a housing provider, there's a bunch of other housing providers that do this as well, partnering with them in doing that. So that would be an opportunity because they do have some funds too, state level as well as local level, to help support folks with mental health issues, challenges.
Right? Okay.
Yeah, I do have a question overall. So, I grew up here in Greenville, but I lived away in New York City for about 17 years. So I've heard like the term affordable housing used ubiquitously, especially in New York, places like New York City. But one thing I feel like I'm seeing is that the talk about affordable housing and I guess the issue of it is spreading across the country. It's not really localized, just a city that's like the most expensive city in America or Chicago or wherever. But so to be honest, I've never actually just technically looked up the definition of affordable housing. But what is the legal definition of affordable? So from that perspective, is there an actual specific price range that you make something?
I'm gonna hand it off to Dawn and I'll go could answer this. But my understanding is that it's affordable if you're paying less than 30% of your monthly income on housing. So if your income is $1 million, your definition of affordable is gonna be different from someone making $29,000.
So organizationally, what we like to say, because it always comes up, and like, what is affordable housing? I mean, are we like saying it's a workforce because we get real icky feelings of like people aren't working? I don't know. So affordable housing, we all need affordable housing, and that's what we like to say because there's a sameness, and nobody doesn't need affordable housing. I mean, it just again to get back to Matt's point, it just depends on what your level of affordability is. There are a definition. There's all of these different charts that we go by that's based on the area median income, number of people in the household, number of bedrooms. And for those that are in, I see Lorraine here, like those in the housing space, it depends on the program that you get funding for, on what those kind of ranges are. But again, it does tie to 30% of your income, which is supposed to cover your utility costs as well as rent, mortgage payment, or whatever. The reality of that is not true. Like it's not, we have a hard time including utilities in that organizationally. But again, bottom line is, and this is where, again, advocacy opportunities, if anybody says, what is affordable housing? I would encourage everybody to say, we all need it, and it's what each individual can afford. It's just a matter of what your income is.
Mike and Linda. Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, hi, Don, I was reminded by, I'm not gonna be able to formulate this question very well, but bear with me. I was reminded when you talked about the program that you're doing to train, in your case, electricians, right? And then all the other things that I've heard, I was reminded of the Civilian Conservation Corps. Like it's almost like a mini Civilian Conservation Corps. That's the FDR post-Depression era program. And I was thinking about that, Brian, you mentioned the co-living space. We need more affordable housing. Brian, you mentioned people coming out in recovery, coming out of addiction. Is there almost an opportunity to do maybe a bigger scale? Like we need more housing. You're training people to play a role as part of that. There's the opportunity for co-living spaces, maybe even to redesign those places so that they can be co-living spaces. I'm just kind of thinking like
that can be part of that. Some of those platforms will help you do that.
Yeah, am I crazy to think that maybe like the federal government at this point is not going to do anything like that? I don't. Is there an opportunity you envision like putting the pieces that you already have in place together and establishing the flow that maybe did something like that? I don't know. Just think, you guys have got me thinking.
Keep thinking.
Yeah.
Well, and Matt, one thing I want to bring up is your question brings it up. Village Engage is getting ready to kind of envision what we're going to be working on next year. And one of the things we talked about is how do we incubate? So what's really cool about HoSEA is that came up organically from a group saying this is the problem. And we have another example that Village Engage has been involved with where we saw a gap with all the people who are here, who are immigrants, who are refugees, and there were gaps in terms of food security, and there's all kinds of stuff going on. And organically, this entire cooperative came together. And so it's a really cool thing when you gather people together So we've talked about, could we even facilitate maybe next year, like some workshops that could be with service providers who have platforms, but also with engaged community members to maybe come up here, maybe get somebody to help facilitate it, who has lots of data, to really start to think about what could some big solutions be. But for these things to happen, people have to be in a place where they can talk to one another, where they can talk about the people with lived experience, the gaps, the needs. How could we look at these issues differently? And so that's something that's kind of on our radar for thinking about next year. So just as y'all bubble around, I think we'd love to know who's interested, because this is such a critical issue for the Greenville community.
Mine's a troublemaker too. That's providing an incubator for those folks to throw out ideas, so, Glenn? Yeah.
My concern is, and I love the hearts in this room and the people who have stepped up to the plate to address this problem. I like what you said about HoSEA, the HoSEA program, but you also mentioned the rental program where you have repeat people. What are we doing in order to stop the bleeding? You've provided services. What are you doing so that people will be able to go beyond and not come back to homelessness? Because once you stop the bleeding, you have to have tools in order to get you to the next level. I'm especially interested in people with children because life happens and that's hard. And when you talk to people who are in that space, I like what somebody said back here, the best person to talk to is somebody who has been in that space. So have we created kind of...
Well, we refer to organizations and programs like Striving to Thrive at United Ministries, Greenville County Human Relations Commission that has financial readiness classes, and they have this really awesome grant where they are providing housing representation in the process of evictions and others. So HoSEA program only refers for those types of things, but we are considering having some requirements for going through a financial readiness class as a condition for their second time asking. That's all we're prepared to do because we're only stopgap. But we rely on lots of the organizations and nonprofits in this room, United Ministries, the county, to provide those so that we can, and we invite them to our team meetings. We invite all those organizations to our team meetings that happens every fourth Tuesday at First Baptist, and we make sure we know what they have available and to offer so that we can refer. That's what we're doing. And also the program I mentioned at First Baptist, which is our local relief, that's utilities, and it has a lot of repeat. And so we offer those resources as suggestions as well for them. But again, we don't do those programs ourselves. We just partner with others. So.
Brian might have something good the whole pipeline transition.
So I can speak for Miracle Hill. We have, while you're a guest at the mission in our New Life program, you go through classes and they're housing guests. It goes everything from budgeting, landlord navigation, interpersonal communication, getting along with your roommates, because we really push shared housing because that's the reality we live in, shared housing. Once you get into transition, you are assigned a transition counselor, which follows the aftercare. They follow up. Every 2 weeks, you meet with this counselor, discuss your bills. You have to be very transparent. That's the key, being transparent and accountable. Throughout the transition of and then you get into your permanent supportive housing, you still have that counselor that you meet with once a month or X amount of time you set up. So it's not just one and done where, we really try to prevention, have that catch it before it happens thing. Let's look at your budget and let's look at what's going on. Let's build your community. That's a big thing. If you have a sense of community, you can't just do this on your own. That's what we do at Miracle Hill.
So, couple thoughts. So again, accountability, all of those things are great. I think the other thing when we talk about affordable housing too is we have to remember that a lot of folks, I can say this for us, a lot of folks that we serve, this is a generational issue. This isn't just sent to a class and then they fix it. And so I think there's a patience that is necessary in this work that I think sometimes I just get concerned sometimes as far as our expectation. Housing is not magic. You don't put somebody in a house and then they, all of a sudden go like, oh, I've got all the things, solved. It is a foundation though. It's a foundation to do those different things and learn those things with patience. The other thing, just want to challenge, because I was a single mama with little kids walking through homelessness. And the amount of classes that I got offered to go to, or required to go to, or in order to get food at this pantry, I had to do this, was ridiculous and not manageable. Like I was a working mama with 3 kids, working full time and had a very understanding employer, but I couldn't come to your 6 o'clock class with my 3 babies, even if you offer childcare. It's just hard. And I think that type of thing to just be mindful of, that we're not gonna put people in a machine and like spit them out better. And some of it is honestly the person, like what they want to do, what they want to invest in, and those types of things. So I think just managing expectations around this too, and establishing patience. And then when we're thinking about advocacy or programs, that we're thinking about things that are actual things that provide care and are maybe online or are maybe other tools, and you have to stair step it. You can't expect all of it. People always ask us, so how many homeowners do you have? And we're like, man, like some of our folks just got into an affordable, stable housing for the first time in their lives. So we're not talking homeownership with them yet. Like we're not there, man. They're not ready. And so just managing those expectations.
And I would like to say, the reference to what you said, is what would make a difference is what they do not have a lot of time, and that's support. They do not have the family. Their families are pretty much in the same situation that they're in. If they did have that support, then I think it would look different for them. But just like Don said, you have these single mothers who are working. They're trying to be a part in the activities for the children, and all it takes is one thing: let my car break down. Not even break down. Let me have to have some brakes on my car, and then it just spirals. It's a snowball effect, and we all know that once you get behind, it's very difficult to catch up. So if there's a way that to provide that support, and I don't know what that would look like from an agency standpoint. So that is a big factor.
So I'm gonna pose a next question to our panel members, but what's wonderful in this little Q&A period that we've just gone through, it's almost like all the tables have been moving toward the group here, toward of what you're talking about. And that's just great. So the question that I want to pose, it's 2 parts, 2 questions, is how have your organizations had to evolve in the last year, this year, whatever, short term, reacted to, thought ahead of the curve, the nature of change that you've been involved with, and what are your needs from the community? How can people, their groups, their constituencies, their churches, how can you get involved? How can they get involved to help you in your mission. So with that, I'll let you take it however you want to and down the panel.
I'll go first. Prayer, that's the main thing we need, prayer. What we've seen an influx of is unsheltered homeless. You know, there's rent is going up, addictions are going up, just life is going up, you know, life happens. Of course, financial donations to the ministry is always welcome. Again, I'm only working at the residential, so I can't speak for the whole ministry, but I'm pretty sure that's a good thing. Basically, your prayer and support, we're being more collaborative with our city, with our other partners. I really like that as far as what's improving and we've had to evolve, especially with the Greenville Together initiative, getting all of the people in the room together on one set goal and actually seeing tangible progress. I'm very encouraged by that. And as far as the second part of the question, and what was the second part of the question?
Well, it's just ways that people can get it back. There may be a reluctance for individuals to feel comfortable going into the mission or whatever. But I think those barriers can break down. I felt like when I first got it started, well, it was a slow, gradual process, but it developed a momentum and a confidence level. I mean, I don't know anything about homelessness, but I do have some skill sets that I could figure out over a period of time how I could employ more effectively to help the staff and others there. I think of the thrift store. I mean, that's a tremendous part of Miracle Hill. Maybe comment a little bit about that, Brian.
So we have 10 thrift stores in the upstate, and we always welcome your shopping there, donating there. To really answer your question, we are very transparent. If you have any questions or stereotypes that you want to confirm or deny, what homelessness means, and just feel free to come by the mission, ask any one of our people at the thrift store. There's a misconception that all the people who are experiencing or most of the people experiencing homelessness are in addiction but there's so many different factors. There's so many variables that contributed to being homeless. And like we all said, once you're there, it's so hard to get out of that. It's so hard to pick yourself up. And just from my experience in homelessness, it was feeling unseen, unnoticed, or disregarded, unheard. And with Miracle Hill, that was never the case. You are loved, you are welcome, you are, appreciated. We can be the hands and feet of Jesus to anyone experiencing unsheltered homeless. And I think the main thing is just interact, ask questions. If you have any doubts or confusion, come see me at the mission. No, best to answer the questions.
So I want to speak in reference to United Ministries. And I have been there and to see that United Ministries is willing to change according to the needs of the community. And so I can say just here lately, we have been talking about rent and evictions, and with United Ministries, where we were assisting with $150 towards rent. Well, $150 for rent was doing nothing. So I kept pushing and I kept pushing and I kept pushing. And I think Lizzie and Jamaica probably got tired of they worked with me. But because we saw the need in the community, just like HoSEA, we now also offer up to $1,500 towards addictions. So we had to change with that. And if I go back in time, when we had our GED program, well, we now have what we call our Striving to Thrive program, which is one-on-one personal coaching with an empath counselor to help one obtain their goals. And so that's something that we saw was a big need and is doing well within the community. So I think that, whoever you are, whatever agency you're at, you have to be able to know and recognize the changes in the community and what needs to be done to address those changes to move forward.
So I think as far as evolving, again, I've been doing this for 18 years and I said already, it's harder to develop affordable housing than it ever has been. Our men's workforce development program has evolved significantly from my time at Homes of Hope. When I started, we were taking mobile homes that have been donated, refurbishing those, selling those to homeless families for $5,000. So like $100 a month, that type of thing. And now we're actually building stick-built homes where the guys are actually getting, again, a construction skill, electrician skill, and we have, folks have a presence within a community. Most of ours are in the West Greenville community, and some of those homes can be purchased. So we've had great stories of families with the help of self-help credit union that have gotten a mortgage on those homes and have gone from homeless, domestic violence victim to now a homeowner in the middle of West Greenville. So our program's definitely evolved. Again, right now we're in another whole evolution stage, I feel like, because of all of the challenges as far as on the development end. It takes money to do this. I know that's not the popular, sexy answer. And I know some people are like, no, we just want to volunteer. And volunteering is great. But at the end of the day, it takes money and capital and creativity with that as far as to do the work, especially develop affordable housing. You can't build your own house, with just volunteer labor. I mean, that just doesn't work. And we have a lot of amazing organizations throughout our county. I'm on the Together SC board, which is for the state of nonprofits, and there's a lot of envy as far as the work and the nonprofits here. So again, I think, where's your treasure? And again, also too, volunteering is incredible for those organizations. But I think the other thing, and I already said this, is taking away those false narratives as far as folks that need affordable housing and really pushing in conversations. Y'all have conversations with folks every single day. And so when you hear phrases like those people or, whatever, the stereotype is, just be mindful that, there's a lot of stories that come out of the folks that need affordable housing, that are homeless, those types of things. And again, there's more connection and more sameness than there is difference. So just encouraging everybody just to lean into that, both personally as well as in the community.
Those are good answers, and I was going to say the same thing, Dawn. I was glad that Brian asked for prayer, because that meant I could ask for donations. I could say that as a pastor. The HoSEA program does rely on just donations, and all of it goes to eviction prevention. There's a QR code on the little trifold front back, the blue in there. Feel free to donate if you'd like to. But what the HoSEA program really needs is more partner congregations to join in. Right now, we have 4 partner congregations: St. Michael, Christ Church, Fourth Pres, and First Baptist Greenville. And we would like to, we'd like to have 8 by the end of next year. So take this back to your leadership, your missions committee, your senior minister, wherever, and just let them know cool things happening, and we're looking for new partners to be a part of it. And with that will come some financial funding, of course, from that congregation or from individual donors, but also volunteers to help shepherd the families from an email to in front of Davita and Trey. That's really what we do, and it's a really cool process that we have. Each church, each of those 4 churches I mentioned, we each take a month where we take all the referrals and give them an appointment.
So right now, First Baptist, me and Jamie are working it, you know, and last month was it Fourth Bres last month? Yeah, and before that, it was St. Michael, and Christ Church is gonna be January. We have a really cool rotation. We meet every fourth Tuesday to talk about things and figure out what we need to do better. And I'm gonna end my little piece reading 2 separate emails that I've gotten in the last couple of weeks that shows the spectrum of how well we're doing and how much we need to work on things. And I appreciate things like this. Okay, this is constructive feedback. All right. And Jamie and I received this one this month. I appreciate you trying to find another appointment, but I have to be honest. This process has been extremely difficult on my end. I've been doing my best to respond quickly, even while I'm at work. This goes to what y'all are talking about. But every time I give a time that works for me, it seems to be missed, or that slot gets picked up by someone else. Yesterday, I wasn't sure about the 4 p.m. appointment, but no one followed up until the next day. I responded, and then I even took off and shared my availability multiple times. And I tried to work around everything you've asked, but nothing got said. Part of that is she's a very busy woman trying to do everything she can to get through whatever they're working through. The other part is we're just volunteers, you know. So I think there's an assumption. And you'll see it actually in the praise email I'm about to read. You'll see kind of an assumption that that there are HoSEA staff members sitting in an office just responding, which tells me we need to kind of manage expectations on that. So that one was unfortunate, but that happens. And here's one. It says, let's see. I thought I had it. Hold on. Okay. To whom it may concern, I wanted to take a moment to express how truly blessed and grateful I am for the HoSEA program. I was referred by my counselor during a very difficult time as I was facing a recent brush with eviction due to grief and hardships. From the very beginning, the experience was easy and comforting. I never felt judged or degraded. Instead, I felt understood. Everybody I spoke with showed real empathy, and it was clear that helping people is more than just a job to them. Again, volunteers sending emails. That's all. Thank you for supporting me during such a hard moment in my life. Your kindness and assistance made all the difference. Sincerely, Tiara. And after receiving that email, we decided to continue the HoSEA program.
Other questions from the audience?
I just wanted to make an observation because I think Glenda mentioned earlier, you know, what are your organizations doing about this other issue that might be out there needing sustainable income or whatever? And I think what we're trying to get back to is not what are you doing, but it's what are we doing? Because these issues are so deeply entrenched and they are so big and it takes all of us. And we can all come together. So I just really wanted to lift up that it's not just what are you doing at Miracle Hill, you know, at HoSEA, what are you doing, but what are we doing? And I think the fact I'm preaching to the choir because you all chose to come to this. So you wanted to be here. And so Village Engage is all about action, and we want people to leave these events thinking about what they are going to do, how they are going to be part of the solution. So I just think that's a really critical element here for this significant issue in our community.
Other questions?
This is just a thought to what Susan was saying. Is there so many things being done? I know that, and so many ways that we can, like, what overwhelms me is, I would say overwhelms me, what I'd like to have is a flow chart that says that, like, you know, here are all the agencies that are doing this
component of housing issues. And housing issues is vast in and of itself. It's not just affordability, but you know, then you've got all the sub issues. And for me to try and determine where I can, you know, best be an advocate or provide support, I would just love to have a big picture. Is there any such resource that
Doesn't United Way have on their website all of those agencies listed? Am I wrong about that?
Unfortunately, well, I think that they only have and I could be wrong, I'm looking at other experts in the room. I could be wrong, but I know that it was only United Way funded agencies. And not all agencies are United Way funded. I know that looking over at Amber, I know the Greenville Affordable Housing Coalition, we've talked about those things. I don't know if Amber, you want to speak to that?
Yeah, Matt could speak to that more as a co-chair of the group.
Another fourth Friday we need to have.
Yeah.
Amy and I are co-chairs of the Rent Stability Working Group that falls under Affordable Housing Coalition, Greenville Affordable Housing Coalition. And one of our big projects for 2026 is working on a big chart, resource map, exactly what you're talking about. I hope we have something in a few months.
I know that would not be an easy task.
I know. I know for sure it existed. It's not.
It seems like it'd be helpful not only to those of us who want to plug in, but also to all the different nonprofits. Because you don't want to have to be doing, and it's wonderful, I love hearing about partners. Because it makes no sense to have all these like repeat, redundant groups when there's already somebody out there doing great work with whatever the problem is. I love partnering, and I think we could do better with that. We had understood all the opportunities to.
I see Amy over there taking notes. So, go ahead. And Lizzie, well, yeah, go ahead, Lizzie.
Sorry, I'm trying to not speak, but you have a resource list that's on our website, and it's not inclusive. There's just, it's never possible. Which is a big problem to have. Yep, so United Ministries website, which is just united-ministries.org. And so when people call us, we use it to just say, hey, we don't provide that, but here's where you can go. Again, it's not bill proof, but it's something. I think what you're describing from a visual perspective probably doesn't exist, but it's a great idea. I'd love for somebody to be inspired. And then I just wanted to put in a plug for the direction you're going, especially this group that meets every fourth Friday, give or take. I'd say the resource navigation alongside what we would call relational poverty, the lack of connection to support, is something you should keep leaning into as community members. That is the thing we do the most. So you can do that too, but doing it appropriately, I think, is something everyone in this room cares deeply about, which I really completely. So website for the resource guide, which is categorized by type, like food, housing, jobs, legal, and then the opportunity to help people navigate systems.
Thanks, Lizzie. Bernie.
And
Then Melinda.
to add to that, so I'm looking at it from a donor perspective. And I know I came into the community 5 years ago, and affordable housing, of course, was like, how can it not be, on one of the top things on my list? And it takes a lot of time for a donor to figure out who is doing what in the community. And if there were some ways I understand the resource is important from the user perspective, but I also want to emphasize that anything that could be done from a donor perspective will make that channel much easier.
That's a good word. Melinda? Gotta get Melinda.
I have a slightly different take on something that, as Susan mentioned, what can we be doing? And this comes from a personal experience that has happened in my area of Greenville in the last 8 weeks. So we need more housing. We need more housing that can be built quickly and for a reasonable price for people, for all people, for all people. But I don't think it'll be a surprise to many of us in this room that we have leaders on our particular county council and neighbors who do not want that housing. They do not want it. They do not want it in their backyards. And so, Susan, one thing I'm wondering is if we could have something about how to go from NIMBYs to YIMBYs.
Love it.
Yes, in my backyard.
Love it.
And it's hard to do. I tried a little bit with the last thing that came. I live in the Paris Mountain area. So I'm very concerned about that because we will not have more housing if not only we are dealing with regulations, high prices, all of the barriers that come with just building housing. If we also continue to have this growing sense of my neighborhood is so precious. My neighborhood is so precious that we can't have that kind of housing here. So, and I know that's also an issue with gentrification. I know there are nuances in there that are challenging, but there are plenty of neighborhoods where it's not an issue of gentrification and people don't want more housing built in their neighborhoods. So I'll stop. Really open.
Can I just say one thing? I just love it, and I just need to. So again, in this room, affordable housing does not decrease your property values.
Right.
It does not.
Right.
And so that's the kind of thing, though, it's a myth, and people get real concerned about, I mean, usually they say it's traffic. It's not.
Down the trees.
Right,
And it's not.
but it does not decrease your property values. And so I love that. I love that opportunity to have that. I think in our current political climate, in our state, country, and county council specifically, tying it to economic impact is the solution. Is not tying it to the needs of the people. I hate that so much. But if you tie it to the benefit to the overall economy, people listen. Or if you tie it to the impact on children and educational outcomes. I was at an ICS, Institute for Child Success event last week, and we had politicians in the room from the State House that responded in such a beautiful way that I have never seen them respond in because it's connecting affordable housing with children.
Well, I think we're at the end of our session here. I have a final thought that is, given some of the wonderful questions, panel responses, it's that working in the kingdom is messy business. And we haven't solved a lot of problems. We may have solved one, but I love the quote from Mother Teresa, and that was, if you can't feed 100 people, then feed just one.
Right.
So maybe we take away some thoughts on how I might be able to provide a little bit of help toward making progress. With that, I want to thank all of you for being here. I want to thank our panelists. For coming up with this idea for this program early last year and making it happen. And to Matt, who partner in this, it's been a privilege to be part of it on my part. And thank you all for the third Friday, no, the fourth Friday program. Thank you.
Survey and there's a little QR code right there. Don't forget.
Thank you.